This is Auburn Mayor Ron Anders with the Mayor's Minutes from our November 3rd, 2020 Auburn City Council meeting. Last night we began our meeting by recognizing our Employee of the Month, and this month's Employee of the Month is Sarah Cook from our Parks and Rec Department. I'd like to read to you a memo about Sarah. Sarah's proven especially valuable during the COVID-19 pandemic. When all of our events were canceled in the spring, Sarah successfully organized a curbside farmers market to bring revenue to the local farmers and fresh produce to the public. She continued to effectively operate in-person farmers market, the city market, every Saturday throughout the summer while remaining conscious of the COVID-19 guidelines. She was also able to open the Sanford Pool for lap swim despite the pandemic. This is another great example of how the City of Auburn's employees have changed the way that we do business here to try to meet the needs of our community during this very difficult time. So thank you, Sarah, for everything that you've done, and congratulations on being the November Employee of the Month for the City of Auburn. Under City Manager's communications last night, the City Manager announced a board announcement for the Public Parks and Recreation Board. There's one position available. This is an interesting board that I encourage you to find out more about. It is not the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, it is the Public Parks and Rec Board. They do not have monthly meetings, they meet as needed. They usually meet around the financing of large projects for Parks and Rec. If this is something you think you might be interested in, let us know at the city and we can get you all the information about how this board functions. Under the consent agenda last night, we changed and approved an alcohol beverage license for RJ Management, doing business as Cigar and Fine Spirits. It was a transfer. This is a business located at 1849 Ogletree Road. Also under contracts last night, we approved two different vehicles for our Public Works Department. One is a dump truck and one is a platform truck. The dump truck was $62,000 and the platform truck was $56,000. Both of these were budgeted in the FY21 budget for this year. Under ordinances last night, the City Council approved the final piece of the student housing zoning ordinance amendments, and this changed the bed density allowance in the University West area of our community from 255 beds an acre to 170 beds an acre. There's a lot to this. This is very serious. We basically took somebody's property and lowered its value by a third by taking away the ability to add 255 beds and lowering that to 170. This was a consideration that the City Council has been studying and contemplating for a while now, and ultimately this was the recommendation that came from the planning staff through the Planning Commission to the City Council. And this has been a holistic view as we've looked at student housing in our community. We all understand that we are oversubscribed for student housing right now, and so we've been studying this through a task force and through meetings and discussions how we can best attack student housing and get us back in line with what our current enrollment and what the current philosophy is at Auburn University. So we'll continue to study this. This is certainly a live document and a live decision that we'll evaluate all the time, but this is the final decision regarding density on the west side, which is primarily where all the larger units have been built recently. Under zoning last night, the City Council had a very robust discussion regarding the Hamilton Place Shopping Center and an office park located right behind this. This is on Moores Mill Road, right behind the Publix grocery store. Ultimately, the council approved unanimously the changing of the zoning of this property from rural to LDD, but the council did defeat by a 5-4 vote the adding of a planned development district to this property. I commend the neighborhood for all of the discussion, emails, and communications that they brought forth last night. I commend the developer who worked very hard to try to find a road and a path to take that made this development more palatable to the City Council, safer for all of us, and they tried to meet the needs of everybody involved, including the residents of Bent Brook. The City Council has been discussing this project. It was tabled at the first reading about 6 weeks ago. Then the developer asked for it to be pulled until last night. And so ultimately it was not approved by the City Council for the PDD amendment, and so the conditional use did not come up later on in the agenda. And one final item that was on our agenda last night, there was a desire to put some no parking zones on the east and west sides of Sanders Street. I personally asked for, I denied unanimous consent, I would say. I just want to make sure that we go to the owners of the property there, the users of the property, and give them a chance to understand what we're contemplating and maybe give them a chance to reconcile the situation there. We obviously have rules about street parking, that it is not a permanent way that you can park your property. And so we've got to work towards a solution here, but it's my hope that we can have some more communication before we make this decision. As far as announcements, just some things I'd like to add and make you aware of. I want to say thank you to our Parks and Rec Department. Drive-through Halloween last Friday night went great. We were really surprised by how many people wanted to participate. I commend our Parks and Rec staff and all the volunteers and civic organizations in our city for participating and trying to make the best of a very difficult situation. And we were able to put some smiles on some children's faces as they were able to collect some candy and still get dressed up for trick or treat. I want to commend everybody in Lee County, and in particular all those people in Auburn, for making Election Day go so well. It was an outstanding number of people that decided to stand in line on a beautiful day and do their civic duty to cast their vote in our national elections, which also had some local elections involved. But my point today is to thank you to our public safety, to all the people that were involved in volunteering there in all of our voting centers. I want to thank Judge English and everybody at the county courthouse who organized this year's national vote, and it went well. It went as well as we could hope it to go, and I just congratulate our city for a job well done. Veterans Day is next Wednesday. Thank you, veterans, for everything that you do, and because of you, we were able to have a great election day yesterday. But obviously, because of the world we're still residing in, we've got to conduct our Veterans Day celebration a little bit different. So we'll be putting together a video and issuing that on Wednesday, November 11th, Veterans Day. But I do want to say thank you to all of our veterans and the sacrifices that you've made on behalf of all of us to allow us to live in a free country. I also want to say thank you to all the members of our public safety and public works, environmental services, all of our city staff that woke up in the middle of the night last week after a tropical storm came through our area and got our community back ready to go to work and go to school the next day. There was a lot of work going on in the middle of the night where many of us were asleep, and I thank all those men and women for getting out early and making that happen and working so hard for all of us. I want to remind you that this Monday night, November 9th, is our annual State of the City address. It'll come to you from the Googe Center. Normally, I would invite you to come to the Googe Center and sit down and participate and be a part of that evening as we did successfully last year, but obviously we can't do that this year. So at 5:30 on Monday night, if you can tune into the city social media platforms, you can participate and watch this event. And what a difficult and abnormal year 2020 has been, but man, we have a lot to celebrate from the city, and there are some successes that we want you to know about. And we do have 6 citizens that have done a great job that we'll recognize with the Mayor's Lamplighter Awards for 2020. So please participate and be a part of the Mayor's State of the City on Monday, November 9th. This is Mayor Ryan Anders with the Mayor's Minutes from our November 3rd Auburn City Council meeting. Have a great week.